Most Americans go through life believing the only path to money is to work for it. Get a job, earn a salary, pay the IRS, try to save a little, and hope that one day you'll have enough in your 401k to retire. But the wealthy do not follow this script. They don't live off big salaries, they don't rely on W-2 paychecks, and they definitely don't build their fortunes using the same part of the tax code everyone else is stuck in. Instead, they follow a simple three-step cycle that quietly multiplies their wealth while dramatically minimizing their U.S. tax bill, a system so effective it almost sounds unfair. It's called buy, borrow, die. In this video, I'm going to walk you through this strategy step by step and show you how regular Americans can apply parts of this strategy on a smaller scale. Stick around because once you understand this formula, you'll never look at money the same way again. Most people in the U.S. are raised to believe that income is the key to wealth. Work harder, get a promotion, earn more money, and prosperity will follow. But here's what they don't tell you. The more you earn through traditional wages, the more the government takes. If you're a high earner, your wages can be taxed up to 37% at the federal level. Then you add state income tax if you live in states like California or New York, where rates can climb to 13 or more percent. Then Social Security and Medicare payroll taxes on top of that, which take another 7.65% of your earnings. By the time the IRS and your state are done, a massive chunk of your paycheck disappears before it even hits your bank account. You might be making six figures, but after taxes, student loans, mortgages, and living expenses, building real wealth feels impossible. This is the hamster wheel that millions of Americans are trapped on. Work more, earn more, pay more in taxes, repeat. It's exhausting, and worse, it's inefficient. While the middle class chases bigger paychecks, the wealthy chase something completely different: assets. Because in the U.S. tax system, assets can grow quietly, sometimes for decades. And here's the key: that growth is not taxed until you sell. Think about that for a moment. If you own a stock portfolio or rental properties, those investments can double, triple, or increase tenfold in value, and you won't owe a single dollar in taxes as long as you hold on to them. The wealthy aren't obsessed with making more taxable income. They're obsessed with owning things that increase in value over time under rules that favor capital over wages. That mindset shift is where the U.S. version of buy, borrow, die begins. Step 1. Buy. But buy the right things. Not new cars that tank in value the moment you drive them off the lot. Not random consumer stuff you put on a credit card. Not the latest gadgets or luxury items that depreciate. Buy assets that grow in value over time, like stocks, real estate, and businesses. Here's the superpower: you don't pay tax on an increase in value until you sell. That's called the realization principle, and it's one of the most powerful features of the U.S. tax code for wealth building. If you buy $500,000 of stock and it grows to $2 million, here's what happens. On paper, you're $1.5 million richer. Your net worth has increased substantially. You could use that growing portfolio as collateral, as proof of wealth, as leverage. But for the IRS, that $1.5 million is an unrealized capital gain. You haven't sold, there's no realization event, so there's no capital gains tax due yet. Your net worth went up. Your taxable income on your U.S. tax return? Still zero from that gain. No W-2 salary can do that. No hourly job can do that. No matter how hard you work at a traditional job, every dollar you earn gets taxed immediately. This is why wealthy Americans prefer to own stocks, real estate, and businesses instead of taking huge taxable salaries. Their assets quietly appreciate under the protection of U.S. tax rules without generating a tax bill until they choose to sell, if they ever do. Warren Buffett famously takes a salary of only $100,000 per year from Berkshire Hathaway, despite being worth over $100 billion. Why? Because his wealth comes from owning stock, not from earning wages. His net worth can increase by billions in a single year, and he doesn't pay income tax on any of that growth unless he sells shares. But that leads to a big, obvious question. If wealthy people aren't earning gigantic paychecks and they're not selling their assets, how do they actually pay for their lifestyle in the U.S.? How do they afford mansions, private jets, luxury vacations, and investment opportunities? That's where step 2 comes in. Step 2, Borrow. The wealthy do not sell assets to get cash because in the US, selling usually triggers capital gains tax. Even at preferential long-term rates of 15 to 20%, that's still a significant hit when you're dealing with millions or billions of dollars. Instead, they borrow against their assets. This is sometimes called securities-based lending or portfolio line of credit, and it's a game changer. Here's how it plays out in the real world. Remember when Elon Musk bought Twitter, now called X? He needed tens of billions of dollars. He has a massive Tesla stock portfolio worth hundreds of billions of dollars. Instead of selling any of it, which would have triggered enormous capital gains taxes and potentially moved the stock price, he could go to banks like JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs and say, I want to access cash, but I don't want to sell. I'll use my portfolio as collateral. To the bank, this is a near-perfect borrower. They've got valuable collateral they can seize if something goes wrong. Elon's stocks are worth many times what he borrows. He is extremely likely to stay wealthy. So the bank offers a huge loan with very low interest rates, sometimes as low as 2 to 4%. Here's the magic part. Loan proceeds are not taxable income. When you borrow money, you don't pay taxes on it. You can borrow 10 million, 100 million, even billions of dollars, and the IRS treats that as debt, not income. So instead of paying a 37% federal tax hit on earned income or even a 20% capital gains tax on sold assets, wealthy individuals can borrow millions at a 3 to 4% interest rate. They can use that borrowed money to fund their lifestyle, invest in new ventures, or buy even more appreciating assets. Meanwhile, their original portfolio or properties remain invested and can keep growing. This creates a remarkable situation where someone can have access to enormous amounts of cash while paying minimal taxes and keeping their wealth-generating assets intact. Borrowing against assets has several powerful advantages that most people never consider. First, it keeps ownership intact. When you sell an asset, you give up all future gains on that investment. When you borrow against it, you still own it, so you continue to benefit from any appreciation. Second, your assets keep appreciating. If your portfolio grows at 7 to 8% per year, but your loan interest is only 3%, you're still coming out ahead. You're essentially using cheap borrowed money while your investments continue to compound. And third, it avoids realizing taxable gains. No sale means no tax. You get the cash you need without triggering a taxable event. The wealthy don't borrow to survive, like someone taking out a payday loan. They borrow to optimize their financial position. And the best part, if they never sell their assets during their lifetime, they may never pay tax on that growth at all. Which brings us to the final, most controversial step. Step 3, die, the tax reset button. This is the step that almost no one outside wealth management circles talks about openly, the step up in basis. Here's what happens under current U.S. tax law. Imagine someone bought a piece of property decades ago for $300,000. Over the years, it appreciates to $3 million. If they sell while alive, they owe capital gains tax on the $2.7 million increase, potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes. But if they hold the property until they die, the cost basis resets to its value on the day of death. Their heirs inherit the property as if they bought it for $3 million, not $300,000. If they sell it for $3 million immediately after inheriting it, the taxable gain is zero. Decades of appreciation simply disappear from the tax calculation. This is the final stage of buy, borrow, die. Buy assets that appreciate, borrow against them to fund your life, die, and the assets pass on with a reset basis. Generations of wealth transfer with minimal taxation. You might be thinking, this is great for billionaires, but I'm not Elon Musk. What can I actually use? You may not be able to borrow millions from a private bank, but you can apply the underlying principles that make this strategy work. First, focus on owning assets. Start with simple, accessible options like S&P 500 index funds. Buy as much as you can afford, even if it's just $100 or $1,000 to start. Buy them regularly through automatic investing. Second, hold for the long term. The longer you hold an asset, the more it grows, the more compounding works in your favor, and the fewer taxes you trigger. And third, understand that when you die, you can pass your stocks or other assets to your heirs. Even if your portfolio is worth $200,000 or $500,000 instead of billions, your heirs will still benefit from the step-up in basis, allowing wealth to transfer more efficiently. The key takeaway is this: Buy, borrow, die is not a secret. It's not a trick or a hack. It's how the system is designed. Thanks for watching. If this opened your eyes to how wealth really works, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to understand how the game is really played. I'll see you in the next one.